Well, hi guys, and welcome to this new video here on Watch on Watch channel. First of all, I would like to thank each and every one of you who has subscribed to this channel. I think the number is up to 140 subscribers now, and I just want to say thank you so much for subscribing. It's really a big motivation for me to keep making videos, and I hope you really enjoy what I'm doing. And well, I will be releasing a lot of material each week, and so far I've done most of my videos has been reviews or a look at my collection, stuff like that. I want to get a little more into looking at the different aspects of the watch business and the different famous watch brands. And that's actually my first video on one of these subjects, and of course for first video, why not look into probably the most famous, or it is the most famous watch brand of all time. Of course, it's Rolex, and a lot has been said about Rolex, and Rolex is by far one of the most recognizable brands in the whole world. Even if you're not into watches at all, if you hear the name, the brand Rolex, you immediately know that it's a high-end luxury watch brand, and for many people Rolex is synonymous with being the most fine and most exclusive luxury watch you can ever get. Of course, watch nerds know that you have brands like Patek Philippe and Audemars Piguet and a lot of other high-end brands that for the watch community is even more expensive and even more luxurious than the Rolex brand. But the Rolex brand is the most recognizable, and I've just been noticing when I read blogs and I view videos on YouTube, and I read what people write in different watch groups on Facebook and other social media, that a lot of people, the relationship that people have to Rolex is either black or white. It's really black or white. It's either you love Rolex and you respect Rolex, or you really hate Rolex for various reasons. And I can understand. I'm gonna say I'm a Rolex lover. I think it's a remarkable story, and I respect the company and the product they produce. But I can fully understand why you would criticize Rolex, because Rolex is in some regards a quite arrogant company and a quite arrogant brand, and they're very secretive, and I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people really are fed up with Rolex or don't like Rolex. Maybe a part of it, without sounding arrogant, is because if you can never buy a Rolex yourself, it's maybe easier to have a hateful relationship with Rolex. I don't know. I think most people with a normal income will eventually be able to buy a Rolex. It's all a matter of saving up your money, and well, I saved up my money to buy my first Rolex. I'm not rich. I got a good job, and several times a year I'm able to make a lot of extra money if I do good at my job, and well, then I could maybe buy another Rolex, and I'm looking into other Rolexes. So far, well, let's do the wristwatch check, of course, and of course for this video I'm wearing my Rolex. This is the GMT-Master, the first one. This is the 16700 GMT-Master, the Pepsi. My watch here is from 1921 and in mint condition. So I bought this earlier this year in May, and I'm really happy about this watch. This video is about the 7 best reasons why Rolex watches are so expensive. And there's a lot of good reasons why Rolex watches are so extremely expensive compared to other watch brands. Even watch brands like Omega, who makes great watches, and it's a Swiss brand and very recognizable. Still, compared to a lot of quite comparable other watch brands, Rolex is far more expensive. But I have researched. I'm a journalist by education, so I know to do my research, and I found actually 7 good reasons why Rolex as a watch brand and the Rolex watches are more expensive than other comparable watches, and why they are even more expensive than they should be. But there's some economic terms and some psychology of why Rolex really can't be that arrogant and charge the prices they do. If we look at the Forbes list of the most valuable brands, Rolex as a watch company and a very exclusive company, a company whose products a very few people are able to buy, they are still number 64 in the world. And let me just say, I have my notes here. If you look at the Forbes list of the most famous, the most valuable brands, Apple is number 1, Google is number 2, and Microsoft is number 3. And why can Rolex be that arrogant that they can charge the same price for a watch all over the world? It doesn't matter where you are. Maybe you can get a little discount, and of course you have to look at the sales tax. Here in Denmark, the sales tax is 25%. So of course I just been to the US, and I was in California, and the sales tax is 6%. So of course there's some differences in different countries, but still the list price, the retail price, is almost the same all over the world. And why does a GMT-Master II cost $6,800 and a Submariner date is $6,850? It's a lot of money. Why can they charge this very high amount for the watches? And there's actually some really good reasons why people are willing to pay it, and why Rolex can do it year after year after year. And they even took up their prices this year. Even though everybody is talking about the Swiss watch making industry is in a bit of crisis, which I think they are not. I think it's just they went to a really high level, and now they're just going down a bit, and all of a sudden it's a big crisis. I don't really buy it. It's hysteria in my opinion. So why can Rolex really make higher prices, put higher prices on their products when everybody is talking about a watch crisis in the Swiss watchmaking industry? So the first reason why is actually that Rolex uses the best materials. They don't cut any corners whatsoever. Every part of a Rolex watch is the best of the best. So for example, the regular, and now I say regular, there's nothing regular about a Rolex watch whatsoever, but the regular steel watches Rolex makes actually uses a type of steel that no other watch brand uses. They use a completely unique and very, very expensive type of steel that no other watch brand uses. And this type of steel is called the 904L steel type. And what's special about this steel type is that, of course, no other watch brand uses it, but Rolex used this kind of steel because it's more rust and corrosion resistant. So they use, this is just talking about the steel. They use the best materials when they produce their watches. The number two reasons, all Rolex movements are assembled by hand. There's no machines assembling anything. Actually, I have several times read a rumor about how they assemble Rolex watches. And when we look at the movement for Rolex watches, the rumor says that before a Rolex watch leaves the factory in Switzerland, 60 people have had their hands on a Rolex watch. They have 60 different people who do a little part, each of them, and at the end you have a Rolex watch. So you think this is really going into detail. You got 60 different people. It's not one person or 5 persons or 2 persons and a machine. It's 60 persons. They don't assemble the watches on machines, at least not the movements. Even the bracelets are hand assembled. So when you have to have a lot of employees to do this kind of work, of course it brings up the price, because you have to pay the wages. One of the reasons why Rolex involves so many people in building their watches is because they live under a strict rule of no failure is accepted. They can't accept that a malfunctioning watch leaves the factory. They can't accept that you go into a watch boutique or Rolex store and you buy a watch and it stops working after a week or something, or even after a year or 5 years. They can't accept it. So they are really meticulous about every part of the watch. It needs to be pitch perfect. No detail is left alone. No stone is left unturned. Everything must be perfect. So of course, when you're not willing to cut any corners, it brings up the price. It's expensive. And that was the reason number 2. The reason number 3, all Rolex watches, and this is actually it's got a string to number 2, because all Rolex watches are tested, and they are really tested. They don't accept any faults or any errors or any failure. It must work. So actually they take every single Rolex watch, and remember Rolex produce about 1 million watches a year at their factories in Switzerland. Every single individual watch is tested. They don't test 20 watches at a time. I actually saw some video from the Citizen factory and also the Orient factory, and I love both Citizen and Orient. I'm not a watch snob. They make great watches at the price point they make watches at. But they test like 50 watches at a time. Rolex tests each and every watch individually. So you can, of course, when you test 50 watches, the risk for failure or error, or the risk that there's an error you don't see, or a little failure you don't see, a little mistake you don't notice, that risk is higher than when you test every single watch individually. And that's what Rolex do. They actually, of course, test each watch for water pressure. They test with water pressure. They test that, of course, it's water resistant to whatever level of water resistance it needs to be. So if it's a GMT-Master, it's down to 100 meters. If it's a Submariner, it's 300 meters, for example. And so every watch is tested individually in water pressure tanks. And they actually also air test the watches. So they must be certain that if no air can get into the watch, of course, no water can get into the watch. So it's like a double test, actually. That was reason number 3. Reason number 4, why these watches are so extremely expensive and so exclusive, and either loved with passion or hated with passion. it's actually also with the first 3 points. And this is also, of course, a point of why they are so expensive. It's because it takes a year to make a Rolex watch. A Rolex watch takes a year to produce. They don't produce a Rolex watch in a week, or in a month, or in a half a year, or whatever, over a weekend. It's not a machine that spits out watches. It's not an assembly line that spits out cars or watches every day. When they start from zero building a new watch, day one, it takes 364 more days before the watch is ready to leave and get out into the boutique or store and be bought by a watch lover. So it takes a year to produce a watch. And just think about the numbers. Like I just told you, what we know, because Rolex is a really secretive company, no numbers really get out, only a little information, but what I have researched from different sources, like I said before, Rolex produce 1 million units a year, 1 million watches a year. Just think about it. If that's true and it takes 1 year to produce a watch, well, simple mathematics is that's 1 million years. But of course they have a continuous production, so of course they always spit the watches out every day. They bring watches out of the factory, but it's quite crazy to think about. If a Rolex watch really, if this is information really is true, and it takes a year to produce a Rolex watch, and they produce 1 million watches a year, well, that's a lot of years. So of course it's expensive, because they can't just produce a watch in a short time, get it out into the store or boutique, get it sold, and get the revenue back. They have to, with each watch they start working on, wait a year before they can sell it. So when they even think about producing a new watch, it takes a year before they really earn any money on it. So that's also a reason why it's expensive. When they eventually get the watch out of the factory and get it sold, they of course needs a lot of money for it. So they can't just sell a Rolex watch for $500, because then they would go bankrupt. They would run out of money. So when it takes a year to produce a Rolex watch, of course they need a lot of employees, and employees is the most expensive part of most companies. So that's another reason. That was the fourth reason why Rolex watches are so expensive. So if we look at Wall Street brokers and drug lords and just people who really love gold, some of Rolex watches are really models and reference numbers of watches are really famous for the gold. For many people, the really flashy gold date or some kind of Rolex watch is the dream watch, the grail watch. And gold plays a big part of Rolex, and gold is of course expensive. But a lot of companies make gold watches. What is unique about Rolex, when they make gold watches, they don't produce the gold and then mold the gold, get it molded or produced anywhere else. They have their own gold fountain at the factory in Switzerland. So that just goes to say they make everything in-house. So how many companies has their own gold fountain? It's quite extreme, and that's of course also a reason why Rolex watches are so expensive. They cut no corners, they want full control, and that's a big point of the high prices of Rolex. It's so hard to copy a Rolex perfectly. You actually almost can't. A lot of replica watches try, and some get close, but you will never get the same quality. So they actually have their own gold fountain according to a blog to watch, and you should really just a little recommendation here in the middle of this video about Rolex. I really like to read a blog to watch, so you should check it out. ablogtowatch.com, you should check it out. And actually a blog to watch claims, they write in an article about Rolex that Rolex at all times have gold for a total value of $1 million at their factory in Switzerland in the gold fountain. So at all times they have $1 million worth of gold, of pure gold. So that says a little about Rolex, and that was point number five. Uh, Point number five about why Rolex watches are so expensive. Number six, and I was just covering this with the gold fountain. Everything is made in-house. For my own, I don't think that everything is made in-house, but I think maybe 99% of everything Rolex does is made in-house. And this gives Rolex a huge advantage in controlling their product. They are not depending on any other companies like Omega or other nice watch brands. A lot of Swiss-made watches uses ETA movements, and they are depending on the Swatch group who owns the ETA movements. So it's easier to do a replica of an Omega watch, at least one of the older models, than copying a Rolex watch, because you can use the same movement. But for Rolex, they make everything in-house, and that's actually a very, very, very big part of why Rolex watches are so expensive, because everything is a secret. Nobody really knows how Rolex produce their watches. Nobody really know how they develop their own technology, and all the different things they do over the course of a year it takes to produce a Rolex watch. Nobody really knows, and I don't really think that actually the employees at Rolex, maybe the CEOs and the people higher up on the ladder knows, but the different employees don't know, because they do their own little bit part of making a watch like this work and produce it. So they got a big advantage in being self-sustainable. They do everything themselves. They're not depending on anybody else. No other companies has their hands on anything when it comes to Rolex. I don't think they mine their own gold, of course, but you never know with Rolex. Who knows? And maybe that's something for the future. They need their own gold mine. Who knows? It's a crazy company, and that's why I think they're really interesting, and I respect them. But I can understand if you think that Rolex is a strange company, or you hate them, or you think they're arrogant. I can fully understand why you have that feeling about Rolex. That was point number 6. And the seventh and last point of why Rolex watches are so exclusive and so expensive: they have their own science lab. So this is of course also a part of doing everything in-house. When Rolex work on their movements, when they want to improve their movements, when they want to improve their sapphire crystal, or the bracelets, or the buckle, or the crown, or anything, they just do little improvements each year, or for each model, or each new version of older models. They improve a little bit. They're very conservative. They don't put out a lot of new models. They're not. I have read that you should think about Rolex as a company who's not working for a revolution. They're not trying to revolutionize anything about the watch making business. They're just about evolution, and evolution is a slow process. It has taken millions of years since we were fish or apes or whatever humans were before we became how we look today in 2016. And that's actually also how Rolex works. Not as slow, but then much more about evolution. Little steps, little tiny steps, and this they do in their own science lab. So they don't need any other watch brands or technology firms or anything to think of new things or develop new things. They do it themselves. So of course it's expensive to do everything in-house. You don't outsource anything, and everybody who knows a little bit about business knows that that's expensive to do everything in-house. Of course, when you need to save money or have a faster production line, you need to sometimes to outsource part of your production to speed up the process, because time is the most valuable thing you have. From the first day you start to produce the car until the day it's out in the car shop, that time you should try to shorten, because you need the car out on the market, sell it, get the revenue, the next car, get the revenue. And Rolex don't work like that. It takes a year, we do everything in-house. Well, that was my video about why Rolex watches are so expensive, and I hope maybe I have given you a few points you didn't know anything about before this video. I just want to say thank you for watching, and remember to subscribe. And if you have any comments regarding Rolex watches and any knowledge, I know a lot of you guys are really knowledgeable about watches, and you probably know a lot more about watches than I do. Please leave a comment, and please remember to like and subscribe. But actually, just before I end this video, I actually have an 8th point number 8 of why Rolex watches are so expensive, and why Rolex, the watch company Rolex, can keep on charging the prices and even increase the prices in the midst of what people talk about is a watch crisis in the Swiss watchmaking company. And that's actually nothing to do with Rolex. That's just an economic factor they use for their advantage. And that is actually the economic term called demand. If you can reach the point where you have the right demand, people want to buy your product, they will buy your product. And as long as there's a demand for Rolex watches, Rolex can sell a watch for $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. And they can do it, and they can go happy down to the bank. The CEO can each year can probably have a nice Christmas dinner with his family and enjoy his big bonus check. They can do it, and that's probably what people find really, really arrogant, because a lot of people would actually, I think a lot of people would like to own a Rolex watch because it's a special watch and it's a special history and a special brand, but they just can't afford it. And that's of course a bit arrogant. I have heard rumors about people who have tried to calculate how much it costs to maybe produce a Submariner, and people say about $1,000. It should cost around $1,000 to produce a Submariner. So that leaves almost $6,000 in pure advantage, in pure profits for Rolex, when you don't count in the marketing, transportation to the boutiques, and of course the wages and everything to the people who work at the watch boutiques. So if that stands, if that's true, actually it even proves the point of economic science regarding demand, because people are willing to pay that price for a Rolex watch, even though they know they pay 700 or 800% more for the product than it costs to produce. You would never do that with a piece of bread, or with a you even wouldn't pay that much for gasoline or anything. Even a door. I have a door behind me. You wouldn't pay 700% more for a door if you knew how much it costs to produce. But Rolex can do it. And why can they do it? The demand is there. And why is the demand there? It's of course the quality, it's the history and the prestige. We shouldn't forget that it's prestigious to wear and own a Rolex. A lot of people don't care about watches. They just want a Rolex because they think, well, then everybody can see how rich I am, or I get some lady attention, or some kind of stuff. For me, why I wanted to own a Rolex is because I'm really into watches, and I have always dreamt about owning a Rolex, and now I do. and well, now it's going to be really expensive for me because I don't think one is enough. So this is of course pre-owned, this GMT-Master, but of course I'm also part of keeping up the prices because I'm really falling for the demand. I demand the product, so if I want Rolex, I must somehow get the money, and so I'm also part of keeping up Rolex really high prices, which of course are much higher than it costs to produce, and even compared to how much it costs to produce, if they earn 800% more than it costs to produce. It's really great for Rolex. Good work from Rolex from a business point of view. So thank you for sticking around. It turned out to be around half an hour, but I hope you found this video interesting. And please remember to subscribe. It's really motivating and it's a big help if you subscribe. Please comment and please remember to like my videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be back with another video very soon. Thank you.